Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to the Fragrance Well. So I've put together a list of fragrances today that I'm just gonna call Go and Be Great fragrances. And basically what that means is these are fragrances that exude some level of, let's say, confidence, focus, direction, maybe some level of accomplishment. Basically they're fragrances that, you smell in them and it's like, hey, that smells like someone who, knows where they're going, knows what they want in life, has some level of purpose or something like that. However you want to frame it, that's basically what I'm kind of centering these fragrances around. And I've got 8 of them here today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. Before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. And of course, I will have links to these fragrances down in the description below if they are available. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're going to kick it off with one coming from Savoir Faire, and it's going to be Soul Café. Savoir Faire, Soul Café. And by the way, I forgot to mention, this doesn't necessarily have to be tied to work. It could be tied to whatever you're using the fragrance for, right? So Soul Café is this really nice, kind of opens up with this really nice orange juice like thing. I mean, it smells juicy, has a little bit of an orange flavoring to it, citrusy, and it's very, very nice. And then once the fragrance kind of settles a little bit more, you get past those opening notes, it gets a little bit more woody, spicy, and warm, and it's just an all around excellent smelling fragrance that has this really nice chill vibe, but at the same time has this classiness to it, has this maturity level to it, and just smells like pure confidence, in my opinion. This is a great scent that I like to use personally for more evening wear occasions, but you could certainly wear it for whatever you want. It has enough of a versatility to it to where it's not just an evening wear scent, but that's probably just where I would place it in most occasions. So once again, from Savoir Faire, this is Soul Café. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So this next one here, coming from Hermes, which by the way, Hermes fragrances, a lot of them can work for a list like this. And this one is going to be Terre d'Hermes Parfum. Again, Hermes, Terre d'Hermes Parfum. And if you consider the Terre d'Hermes line, I think a lot of these fragrances, even the latest one, the Eau de Parfum Intense, has just enough of qualities that these other Terre d'Hermes has to be on a list like this. It has enough of a classiness, even though it's still relatively warm and spicy, and kind of went in a little bit more of an ambery direction to an extent, still can work. But this one here, if you can consider the original Terre d'Hermes, which has that dirty orange thing, it's a lot more rounded out, a lot more sophisticated, smoothed out with this version. Less of the orange, more of a grapefruit thing. You still get this kind of poppy, slightly smoky earthiness with the scent. Really nice, clean vetiver as well. And it's kind of warmed up with a heavy amount of like benzoin type notes or something like that, giving just this warmth to the fragrance and just overall smoothness to the scent. Terre d'Hermes in general, always something I consider to be highly classy and a fragrance that kind of exudes a level of confidence and focus and direction. So once again, from Hermes, this is Terre d'Hermes Parfum. All right, moving on to the next one. Got one from Amouage. This was actually my scent of the day yesterday, and I'm actually going to spray it on today as well. It's going to be Boundless. Amouage Boundless. So this is one of their more vanilla focused scents. Just gonna spray this a couple times on my wrist for the moment. Just go ahead and take all that goodness in. Ah, man, that is a very nice vanilla fragrance. So with this one, if you look at the notes, which I try not to just study the notes in terms of understanding a fragrance, but you'll see things like, cardamom, CO2 or something like that. You'll see like ginger like notes. I feel like all of that comes together to really just create this more sparkly textured thing with this scent. I'm not saying you can't necessarily smell those elements, but there is just this sparkly texture with the fragrance that eventually wears off. But you've got some very high quality, very classical approaches to vanilla here. Not super sugary, not super sweet, just natural, earthy vanilla. Smells so good. And then it's pairing with this kind of typical woody, resinous, incensey amouage base note combination that to certain extents you can find throughout a lot of their fragrances, and it just works really, really nicely. Not one of the most popular fragrances, kind of, I guess some people would honestly consider it mid, but it's still got the class of a great amouage fragrance and the sophistication to make a list like this where, you know, it smells like someone who has an air of confidence about them and maybe some accomplishment. So once again, from amouage, this is Boundless. And let's move on. We got a good one here from Guerlain, another house where you could say there's a number of fragrances that exude properties like this, go and be great scents. So this one from Guerlain is going to be L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum. Again, that's Guerlain. L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum. I'll be honest, first time I sprayed this, wasn't too sure about it. That's because there's this pretty strong star anise lemon kind of thing that almost comes across smelling funky in this scent when you first spray it on, but it settles really, really nicely. And then you've basically got this patchouli tea thing. And it's just, and a little bit chocolatey as well, some cocoa-like notes, which, you know, patchouli in certain respects can kind of give you that anyway. And it just smells awesome. Again, kind of more of a mature scent, maybe a little bit of a classic vibe. Not necessarily going to be for everyone. I wouldn't call it tough to wear, but it does have this very mature, kind of refined take to a fragrance, even with those notes. And I just think this one, if you want to smell like someone who, you know, you just got focus and direction and you know where you want to go and know what you want to accomplish with the fragrance choice you're choosing for whatever that occasion is, this is just simply a good one. So once again, from Guerlain, we've got L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum. By the way, there is an eau de toilette. I don't know how that one compares to this, but this one seems to be the one most people have experience with. Next up, got one from Creed. And once again, another house. I mean, depending on what the scent is, another house you could say they have a number of fragrances that could go on a list like this, especially the ones that are maybe a little bit more timeless or classic smelling. But for this one, we're going to go with Royal Oud. Creed Royal Oud. And I'm sure many of you guys, at least the ones who are familiar with the scent, would agree this is a fragrance that smells very, very refined, classic, gentleman-like smell, and something that, in my opinion, at least, is timeless. It's fresh, it's green, it's clean, it's woody, and it is very classy smelling. Ah, man, this is really good stuff. I should have had this fragrance. I recently got it. I don't know what took me so long to grab it. I don't know. Look, there's really no excuse for it. This is a fragrance here that if I consider everything I have in my collection, what are some of the ones I would just absolutely always want to have? This is one of them. Now it is. You know, I got it just recently and it instantly jumped into that list because this is a fragrance I can use for just about anything. I like classy smelling fragrances. You're not going to smell old with this. It's not dated. I think it is something that is ultimately going to be timeless. We like to associate that with Green Irish Tweed because it's been around for so much longer. But I think this one, same thing. It's not going to go anywhere, I would assume. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And it is a good, classic, timeless scent that smells of a refined gentleman. So once again, from Creed, this is Royal Oud. All right, moving on. This one here, going to be coming from Francesca Bianchi. This one might be a little bit tough for some people, but let me break it down for you. This is going to be Lost in Heaven. Again, this is Francesca Bianchi, Lost in Heaven. Now, not every fragrance from this house has these qualities, but this one is going to be one of those ones where, to put it bluntly, you got to really have an appreciation for, you know, these kind of heavier, old school masculine notes, because Francesca Bianchi does a great job, in my opinion, with molding those more classic, heavier masculine notes and then putting a modern spin on them. This fragrance really does that, but I'll be honest, this one opens up a little bit strange. It's really heavy on beeswax, which, you know, beeswax has a very particular smell. It doesn't smell like honey, but a lot of that very spicy kind of earthy thing going on, and it's pretty pungent when you first spray it on. I wore this either last week or the week before, and I really just kind of paid attention to how the scent developed. This one goes through a massive transition. When you get to the dry down, though, oh my gosh, it has got to be one of the best ambery, woody, slightly sweet smells I've smelled in a fragrance that starts off the way this one does in a while. And I've had this fragrance a while, but it's been a while since I've worn it, and I wanted to revisit it because I'm like, it's sat on my shelf a while. Let me see what it does. But anyway, automatically you're gonna get this kind of, you need to have some confidence kind of thing when you first spray it on, but it settles into this just really nice, slightly mature, woody, ambery scent with a slight spice to it and a good amount of sweetness too. And it smells delicious on the dry down. So if you got enough stomach to pull this off and have that confidence to get past that first 15 minutes or so with that beeswax thing, this could be a really great scent choice. So once again, from Francesca Bianchi, this is Lost in Heaven. All right, moving on. Only got 2 more. Next one, gonna be my second favorite fragrance in my collection, and just a classic from the house of Nishane, and it's going to be Hacivat. Nishane Hacivat. And this right here, many people associate it with it being kind of a distant cousin to Creed Aventus, which is fair. I think the bergamot qualities and that pineapple note are really the only things that tie it to it. But other than that, it's fairly different. It's a lot drier. The woodiness, that profile is completely different. Heavy dose of oak moss in this, where Aventus is more birch wood and yada, yada, yada. We don't have to go through all those comparisons. But yeah, very brash, bright bergamot and grapefruit notes in this. A slightly juicy take on a pineapple, and then all those other elements I talked about. But to me, this fragrance is something that's highly versatile. And just because it's more of a freshie doesn't mean it doesn't work well for a list like this. I think this is a very mature version of that Aventus style fragrance, which is why I'm putting it on this. I call it relatively refined. I think the oak moss feature is the thing that kind of pushes this fragrance over the top. Not everybody really likes oak moss, but I love it. And I think it is a type of a note that is for someone who, I don't know, kind of has a little bit of understanding of who they are, in my opinion. I'm not saying if you don't like oak moss, that means you don't have that, but it just, to me, that's oak moss just kind of has that feature for me. That's just me personally. But anyway, this fragrance here, I think is timeless. I think you can use it for just about anything. And a lot of times we don't associate Aventus in general with being this thing that kind of has this kind of quality to it, or go and be great. Hey, I understand where I am and who I am kind of fragrance, because it's so freaking popular and there's a lot of versions of it that are a little bit more juvenile. But Aventus, and even this, I think exudes those types of qualities. So once again, from Nishane, this is Hacivat. All right, moving on to the final one. This one's coming from Frederick Malle. Probably, I don't know, is this our most popular scent? It's got to be one of them. And it's going to be Portrait of a Lady. Frederick Malle, Portrait of a Lady. Now with this one, very rose dominant. I would say any man that is comfortable with wearing rose heavy fragrances, at least as far as your journey is in terms of wearing fragrances, you would have progressed past what most men think of rose right off the bat. And hey, I'll raise my hand. I was one of those guys. I didn't see rose as something men wore, just because, I grew up in a time when that wasn't something that men typically wore. But if you know the history of rose in general, that was something kings were wearing all the time. Anyway, we ain't got to go down that rabbit hole. Portrait of a Lady. Rose fragrance, relatively jammy, fresh rose. This fragrance is also quite dry, features a very heavy cedar wood. To me, you're going to get a lot of patchouli in this, so you're adding more of an earthy characteristic. And there is a little bit of a tart fruitiness and heavy clove-like spice with the scent as well. Scent overall is actually relatively simple, but it is very, very powerful, very, very distinct. And I do think you have to have some air of confidence and comfortability with yourself to wear a fragrance like this. And it does, to me, smell like someone who has a clear focus as to where they are in life, in my personal opinion. Now, apparently, I always saw this fragrance as masculine. It's certainly marketed as unisex. Some say this is a women's fragrance. I don't know, man. I guess it's just based on your experiences with certain things, because Portrait of a Lady to me is a terrible name for this fragrance. I don't see this as a woman's scent. But to be fair, I've actually never smelled it on a woman either, so maybe I just need to experience that. Anyway, neither here nor there. Once again, from Frederick Malle, this is Portrait of a Lady. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any fragrances you consider go and be great fragrances. Fragrances you like to wear when you know you want people to understand that you are a confident individual, at least for that day, if nothing else. Put them down in the comments below. I would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.